This is Paul Reyes with Common Look. Thanks for joining in to our webinar today. I think today's webinar is going to be relatively short and sweet, actually, so maybe you'll get some of your time back in your day. But we're going to look a little bit more closely today and talk about the reading order in PDF. We'll advance to the next slide. You should be able to hear me. Thank you, those of you who have noted in the chat that audio was working, but you're on mute. If you have technical issues with the Zoom platform, for example, please feel free to drop a note in the chat, and we have Susan making sure that everything is in order there and helping people out as needed. Otherwise, when questions about today's content come up, feel free to put those in the Q&A pod, and I'll be sure to check those questions at the end. Also, we will indicate this again at the end of our webinar today, but it is being recorded and it will be captioned, and those of you who have registered for today's webinar will get the captioned recording of our presentation today emailed to you. So in case you were wondering how you would be able to get that after the fact, we will send that out to you once it's captioned and ready to deliver. So reading order in a PDF is often a source of question, confusion, sometimes frustration. So we're going to take a look today at what is the reading order in a PDF, and I'm going to make some bold claims, and so I have to be able to back them up. So we'll look at the standards that kind of weigh in on the reading order debate in a PDF, and of course we'll talk briefly about how to verify the reading order in a PDF is correct, answer questions that might come up, and of course provide information about upcoming webinars in our series, as well as other contact information. So let's just cut right to the chase. What is the reading order in a PDF, right? Along with being a huge source of debate, what it is it's the order of the content in the tag tree, right? What the reading order is not is the order of stuff in the order panel in Acrobat. Right now, yes, that can be confusing, right? Because wouldn't the reading order be reflected in the order panel? Many people think that that's the case, but in fact, we're going to take a look at the standards, and we're going to see that the reading order is determined by the order of the tags in the tag tree. I'm going to touch on a concept here as well while we're looking at screenshots of the tag panel and the order panel in Acrobat. And we'll come back to these concepts later. But in the tag tree in a PDF, you'll see tags. You'll see structure elements, heading 1 and heading 2s and paragraphs and figures, lists and tables and so on, right? All of these tags are not reflected in the screenshot that is provided here, but many of us have seen those elements in the tag tree. In the order panel, and sometimes, to be clear, some people will refer to that as the Z order panel because of what looks like a little Z in the icon. But in the order pane or in the order panel in Acrobat, what you don't see are tags. You'll see kind of little box icons, but they don't actually convey whether something is in a heading or a paragraph or a list or anything else for that matter. That's an important little nugget to hold on to as we go through the rest of today's presentation. So when it comes to the standards, right, that's a pretty bold statement saying that the reading order is determined by the order of the tags. So how do we back that up? ISO 32000 is literally the standard on how to make a PDF. Right now, it's long, it's complicated, and one section points to another section, and so on and so forth. But in section 14.7, the logical structure section, that's basically where tags are introduced into the concept of PDF. There's other sections in the standard that refer to fonts, right? Like how to actually make fonts and graphics and so on and so forth. But section 14.7 is the logical structure section, and that's where tags are introduced in a very broad concept. Then in section 14.8, when we get into more specifically 14.8.1, they talk about tagged PDF. And tagged PDF builds on the logical structure that is introduced in 14.7. Among other things, the tags, the logical structure, is available to support accessibility, right? It also mentions other things like repurposing PDFs and being able to cut and paste or copy and paste and stuff like that. But one of the main things that's addressed in 14.8.1 is the tag PDF for accessibility support. Then in section 14.9, it talks about accessibility support. 14.9.1 makes a couple of very important points about tags and reading order. And basically, one point is that accessibility applications, for example, screen readers, refreshable braille displays, other assistive technologies, need to be able to extract the content from a document for presentation to users with disabilities. And they do this by navigating through the structure hierarchy, which is a fancy name for the tag tree, and presenting the contents of each node. So for example, what's a node? When you open up the tag root, then you can see the tags that are in the tag tree. And then when you open up tags, you can see what's inside them. Those are the nodes, right? The various, the structure elements and so on that you can open, right? So assistive technology needs to be able to navigate through the structure hierarchy, through the tags, and present the contents in the tags to people who are using AT. The other point that 14.9.1 makes is that the core of the support lies in the ability to determine the logical order of content in a PDF independently of the content's appearance or layout through the logical structure and the tagged PDF as described in the previous sections, right? So what's important about this is in 14.7, when logical structure is first introduced and kind of outlined, it specifies, it clarifies that the tagged layer is to be independent of the physical appearance layer of a PDF, right? And so in the accessibility support section, 14.9.1, the important thing here is that AT should be able to determine the logical order of the content in the PDF from the tags, as opposed to from the visible layout of the document itself. So the ISO 32000 standard is a broad standard, right, where there's a lot of things that you're allowed to do and so on to make a PDF. PDF UA, ISO 14289, is the universal accessibility standard for PDF, and it takes the broad allowances in ISO 32000 and kind of puts some limits on them, so that if PDFs are going to be accessible, then you've got to do these things, or maybe sometimes you're not allowed to do these things that maybe otherwise would be allowed in a PDF, right? ISO 32000 does provide a definition for real content, right? Real content is defined as content that conveys important information. Now, this is differentiated from decorative images that maybe are visually on the page but don't convey anything important, or for example, layout marks and printer's marks and stuff like that, which can be in a PDF for print purposes, but again, don't convey any important information. But the real content in a PDF is that content that the author wanted you to know, okay? In PDF UA, and paraphrasing the standard, in 7.1, the file format requirements section, there's two important points that are made. Real content, that content that conveys important information, needs to be tagged. The second point is that the tags need to be in a logical reading order. So in other words, as you're looking at the tags and the order of those tags, they need to be logical so that somebody going through the tags gets the same information at the same time as somebody who is reading the document by looking at what's on the page or on the screen. Furthermore, PDF UA also provides guidance for conforming readers, right? That could be PDF rendering software that shows a document on your screen. It could also, and also does apply to, assistive technology, right? So when it comes to conforming readers, they need to be able to process all structure types, right? Which is, again, another fancy name for the tags. So if you go back to the screenshots that we looked at with the tag tree, which showed the tags, the headings and figures and paragraphs and so on, versus that order panel, which didn't show any structure types, right? Conforming readers need to be able to process all structure types, all the tags. Furthermore, in that same section, need to make the reading order as defined in section 7.1 available to assistive technology, right? So screen readers, refreshable braille displays, other assistive technologies need to be able to read the document from the tags, and as specified in 7.1, the tags need to be in a logical order as compared to the physical view of the document. WCAG, right? Even though WCAG stands for the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, originally developed for HTML, we all know that there are WCAG techniques and guidance and so on for PDFs, right? And in the WCAG techniques, it mentions PDF 3, the reading order of a PDF is determined primarily by the tag order of document elements, including interactive elements. Right now, that sentence does continue, and in the WCAG technique, it goes on to further clarify, if you will, how to handle the reading order of content within tags, right? But the reading order of a document is determined by the order of the tags, right? It also does, this WCAG technique does go on to mention the tab order in a PDF, and that also is supposed to follow the order of the tags in the tag tree. Even Acrobat gets this right, right? Now, we've talked about verification of PDF accessibility and testing against the standards and so on, and we've looked at how Acrobat misses some things and gets some things, and what do you do when that happens, and stuff like that. But every time you test a PDF with Acrobat's full check, you'll get 2 issues that come up by default. And I put issues in air quotes. These are really user verification things that, you know, that the tester needs to manually check. One of those is the reading order in the PDF, right? And when you examine those issues in your results after running the full check in Acrobat, if you select the issue, if you will, for checking reading order, and you open up the context menu and you follow the link for explain, it will bring you to their web page for create and verify PDF accessibility. And to quote from that web page, verify this rule check manually. Make sure that the reading order displayed in the tags panel coincides with the logical reading order of the document, right? It's pretty clear, check the tags. So in all of these things, ISO 32000, PDF UA, WCAG, even in Acrobat, what's missing, what's not mentioned? The order pane, anywhere, right? So that leads us to the next question. What do I do when my AT reads from the order panel, right, in Acrobat, or reads from some other panel for that matter, right? Yes, this is a case. This is a problem sometimes. However, you know, if we think historically about PDF, PDF was invented before tagged PDF was invented, right? And so once upon a time, makers of AT, for example, and other PDF rendering software would have to read from some other section, if you will, of the document other than the tag panel or the tag tree, because for a while PDF existed without tags, right? So even after tagged PDF started to become a thing, you know, tagging even to this date, some tagging is better than others, right? And so, sure, it makes sense that AT developers would try to write their software so that even if a PDF wasn't tagged, at least there was something there for AT to read to an end user, right? So that there at least was some content that somebody would be able to get out of a PDF, even if it wasn't tagged, or perhaps if it was poorly tagged. However, the PDF standards have been around long enough now, and accessibility standards have been around long enough now, that it is possible to tag quite well PDFs, right? And so at this point, when PDFs aren't tagged and remediated correctly, really what should happen is people should go and get that PDF tagged and remediated correctly. There's solutions out there for how to do that, right? So while originally there was some compensation made for, you know, there's no tags, I want my AT to be able to read something, at this point in time, there's enough known about tagging that really AT should be reading from the tags as stated in the standards. So it's important to keep in mind that if your AT is not reading from the tags, it's not conforming, right? PDF UA is pretty clear on what conforming readers need to be able to do and how to do it. So if your AT is reading from someplace else in the PDF, whether that's the order pane or the content, or even, I know some AT out there has its own algorithm for how to handle content in a PDF. If they're doing that and not reading from the tags, they're not following the rules, right? I would recommend contacting your AT vendor and saying, hey, PDF tagging has come far enough along now that I need my AT to read from the tags and follow the standard, because remediators are following the standards and doing what they need to do in the tags. Also, from a procurement standpoint, maybe let your money do the talking and only buy AT that conforms to the standards, right? Maybe a bold statement, but maybe the way to get the point across, right? You've got to consider from a PDF creation or remediation standpoint, we can't possibly create documents or remediate documents along the lines of how this or that AT, PDF processor, etc., will handle a PDF, right? As document creators, as remediators, we have to adhere to the standards. There's too many various devices out there, and even the settings within the same assistive technology software, for example, can be changed so that people can get different reads of the same document depending on what AT they're using, what software they're using, and how they have it set up. So it's important for document creators and remediators to design and remediate with the standards in mind, follow those rules, and then the AT needs to also follow those rules when reading a PDF to somebody. Also, very clear in WCAG 2.0 and also WCAG 2.1, they're purposefully software agnostic. In other words, you won't find in WCAG 2.0 or 2.1, do this or that on your web page or in your PDF or any of your content so that fill in the blank software handles it correctly, right? Not to name names or to pick on PDF processors or assistive technology specifically, but the whole point of WCAG 2.0 and 2.1, or well, one of the points of those standards, are that they're software agnostic so that everybody has the best chance and the best experience of accessing content. So when it comes to the original question at the beginning of our time together, how do we verify the reading order in a PDF? You check out the tags and you make sure that the order of the real content in the tags follows the order and the sequence, how you would read a document by looking at it visually. If the order of the content in the tags matches the order of the content in the physical view, then your reading order is correct. If it doesn't, it's not. And that, in a nutshell, my friends, is how you verify the reading order in a PDF. So I've seen a couple of things pop into the Q&A pod while I've been talking. I'll go ahead and check those questions now. Like I said, this one was going to kind of be short and sweet, straight to the point. As I mentioned earlier, we will email you a link to the captioned recording of this webinar when it's available. You can feel free to check out our website and see what other webinars we have coming up in our spring webinar series. The URL for that page on our website is https://commonlook.com/spring-2020-webinar-series. I'm going to check the Q&A pod. I see that there's a few things in there. If we don't get to your questions, if you come up to a question or a comment later and you want to contact us after the fact, please feel free to shoot an email over to sales@commonlook.com, and we will get your questions answered or your concerns or whatever you may have. So with that, we'll get to the Q&A pod. The first question: what does the order tab in Acrobat show? Anything? Yeah, it shows stuff. It'll show you the things that are on the page. And from my understanding of how that order pane works in Acrobat, is it actually works in conjunction with the content pane for how things get painted on the page, right? But really the important thing from a screen reader, reading order, assistive technology, and accessibility standpoint is that order pane, that order tab, does not show you the reading order in the PDF. What AT does not read from the tags panel? I'm sorry, but I'm going to be respectful and I'm not going to name names. The point, I think, of this webinar is not to throw anybody under a bus, but it is for you to for you to be aware that that is the case sometimes, and it would be simple to tell. Check out an AT, a particular program, software, processor, and look at the tags in the PDF while you're listening to the AT read it, and see if they match. What is AT? Thank you. I'm sorry. AT stands for Assistive Technology. Screen readers, refreshable braille display, switches. I mean, there's all kinds of AT, right? Sip and puff and so on. Most of the time with a PDF, we're talking about screen readers or refreshable braille displays when we're talking about AT. And sometimes, by the way, people will use the term screen reader as kind of a generic term for assistive technology. But to answer that question, AT, and I'm sorry I didn't define that earlier, AT stands for assistive technology. Our organization has found that sometimes CommonLook does not tag all the content. However, the accessibility report has no errors. Thus, I always go to the order pane first to check whether or not content was tagged or not. Why does CommonLook skip content when converted Word to PDF? I would love to know if you have specifics, but keep in mind that real content needs to be tagged, and the standards also specify things that should not be tagged, right? So decorative images, for example, should not be tagged, and also running headers and footers shall not be tagged. So, for example, if you're going from Word and converting to a PDF, whether you're using Common Look Office or not. The content that's in the headers or footer section of the page in your Word document will not be tagged, because that's kind of the rule as per the standards, that running headers and footers shall be artifacted. Does NVDA use the tag order? It is an AT commonly used in Mexico. Again, really, I encourage you to check out NVDA, and it is commonly used all around the world. Thank you for joining in from Mexico. That's pretty cool. NVDA is a very, very popular screen reader that many people use, and I would encourage you to check it out. Listen to a PDF with NVDA, reading it while you're checking out the tag tree, and see, answer that question for yourself, right? That being said, I know that NVDA is really popular and a really robust screen reader. So in fact, I use NVDA when I'm testing PDFs as well. So hopefully that helped. So you just never open the order pane. True story. Yes, I actually never go there. I sometimes joke around when we're teaching people. Remember, I'm in the training department, so when we're teaching people how to remediate PDFs using our software, all of our focus is in the tag tree. I often joke around and say, sure, if you're paid by the hour, go ahead and make that stuff match too, right? If you've got nothing better to do with your time. But in reality, the problem with moving stuff around in the order pane is that sometimes it does, and sometimes it does not sync with the tag tree. So it's possible to move something in one place or another and not have it really be ending up where you want it to go. So, you can, and I know many remediators do, but I never waste my time with the order pane in Acrobat. Continuing on. So is the order panel just a leftover from old versions of Acrobat, or what purpose does it serve? Again, like I said, I'm pretty sure it works in conjunction with the content pane in Acrobat. However, I'm not deeply embedded in Acrobat, right, or in Adobe, so I can't necessarily go totally in depth as to why it's still there. I'm sure it probably serves some purpose, but it's not the reading order in a PDF. How do you change the reading order if the tags are in the wrong order? You move them so that they're in the correct order. Right. Now, there's a number of ways to do that too, but the long story short on that is how do you fix the reading order? You change the order of the tags, right? Depending on what software you're using, you can drag tags to the correct place. Common Look has functionality to do that, as well as move tags in other ways as well. But that's what you need to do, is move them so that they are correct. Thanks so much for this educational series. Thank you for tuning in. Simple question, one H1 tag for a multi-page document, or H1 per page or per multi-page section? Ooh, you just opened up the H1 can of worms. Thank you. That is a great source of debate too, as far as how many H1s are you allowed for a document. Ordinarily, you want what we go with, and there's reasons for this, and I'd be happy to get into more in-depth why, and perhaps another webinar this might come up, or certainly on a side conversation. But what we do is one H1 for the title of the document, and then your major sections are your H2s, subsections are H3s, and so on. Certainly, H1 is handled in PDF differently from how it's handled in HTML, right? And sometimes that's the source of the debate sometimes. What's the purpose of the order panel? That's a popular question of the day. Again, works in conjunction with the content pane for how stuff gets painted on the page and stuff like that. Is there a link to the presentation? We will be sending you a link to the captioned recording of this presentation when it's available. Can Common Look check the reading order automatically? Nope. In fact, no software can. Any software vendor who tells you that their software can automatically check the reading order of PDF and verify that it's correct without human intervention is either incorrect and doesn't understand reading order really, or they're lying and trying to sell you something, right? The reading order is one of those things that requires manual verification when it comes to PDF testing. So from your last comment about WCAG being software agnostic, can we assume that PDF UA is recognized by only some AT and not others? I don't necessarily know that that's a fair statement, but probably, right? That's up to the AT development teams as to whether or not they follow the PDF UA standard, right? Or whether they follow WCAG or whether they follow any, for that matter. Like I said in that portion of the presentation, I know various assistive technologies and assistive software out there that does not follow PDF UA. I know there's technologies out there that don't follow any standards at all, and they just kind of use their own algorithm or whatever to figure out the reading order in a PDF. So yes, to answer your question, there are AT developers, products, and so on out there that do not follow the standards. And again, therein lies the problem. From a remediation standpoint, we have to remediate, and we have to create content and so on according to the standards, because we can't possibly guess what AT everybody's using, what standard or what settings they have that vary from one person or one user to the next, and so on. So we have to follow the standards, the AT has to follow the standards, and then everybody meets, pardon the pun, on the same page. I learned that read order is the order of numbered gray boxes and is the order a screen magnifier zooms in on content. I learned that tag order is the order screen readers read the content aloud. Is this not right? Again, different AT are going to handle things differently, but the standards are clear in that the reading order is should be determined from the tags. So if you've got AT that is using something else, then I recommend that you take that up with that AT vendor developer and have them get with the program. Yes, it is real content, and we have reported to the coders. Okay, cool. Then thanks for letting us know, and I look forward to getting that resolved. Okay, so what is the purpose of the Z order panel when remediating tags in a document? Does it serve any kind of useful function? No, it does not. It slows you down. Just encountered doc with title on cover repeated on first page. Would like to hear a webinar addressing H1 in various types of documents. Cool. So Susan, who is our mastermind kind of behind this whole webinar series, I'm sure she's taking a note right now that people want a webinar addressing H1s in various scenarios and so on.
I see that. I am making a note.
Susan's awesome. Thank you, Susan. Currently working on a PDF form and trying to get the reading order correct. Yes, I did, trying to move things around in the tags. Read aloud, reads back, warning, blank page. Right, so first of all, read aloud in Acrobat is not an actual screen reader. Okay, just so that we're clear on that. It provides a little bit of a snapshot of maybe what's going on in the document, but it's not an actual assistive technology, right? You can actually only access it from within Acrobat. So if somebody, for example, was blind or significantly visually impaired and needed to use a screen reader, they would have to have something open to be able to even open the PDF to access Adobe Read Out Loud, right? So it's not really a screen reader, although sometimes it gives you an idea for what's going on in the document. And again, it doesn't follow the rules, and another thing that it doesn't really do is convey structure and stuff like that on the page. So if you're going to test reading order and so on, you're going to want to actually use real assistive technology as opposed to Adobe Read Out Loud. NVDA, JAWS, a couple of the heavy hitters, Window Eyes, for example, depending on what PDF processing or rendering software you're using as well. How do you tag content, headlines, paragraphs, that spans across 2 pages in the physical view? Which page does it get tagged to? That's one of the beautiful things about PDF. As I mentioned, the tags in the PDF are kind of in a separate layer from the visual organization, if you will, of the content in a document. So while content-wise, a PDF is built page by page, the tagging does not go page by page. So if you have a paragraph, for example, that spans across a page break, you would put all of that content into one paragraph tag. And that's how it's handled. Great question, though. Thank you, will do. I can get access to JAWS. Great. So it looks like, and I'll hang on for a couple minutes to see if any more questions ping in, but those are some great questions in the Q&A pod. Thank you, everybody who joined in today. Looking forward to presenting other webinars in the near future. Thanks for your time. I hope this was helpful. Again, remember that we will send a link to the captioned recording of today's webinar. If you have any other questions, comments, or anything that comes up after we close out today's time together, please feel free to reach out to us at sales@commonlook.com. Thank you very much. Stay healthy, stay safe. Have a great day.